Well, because women ages 24 to 32 and a half that are Hispanic actually report 2 times increased rate. And I was like, why the is that so specific? Makes me think you're lying, right? Just like it's a general thing, right? Now, I guess I was just looking at this because, maybe it's before Oslo, and then this is after Oslo, so the years right before. But in my mind, I should have been thinking, like, I probably should have a larger time span for this. That would have been like a protective measure in my brain. Would have been good to know. But anyway, this guy sent me a picture of, let's see if I can find this. Construction starts in settlements by year, Israeli Central Bureau of Statistics. Destiny, while you were researching this, you said exactly, why are these years so specific? Oh, interesting. Oh, then I might have, maybe I did say that, but I didn't do further digging to it. Or I might have asked the stream team, we just couldn't find it. But anyway, he sent me this graph for this, right? Now, this is interesting because it does recontextualize those 91 to 92 numbers a lot. These are insanely high numbers for 91, 92, right? And to point to just these numbers and to say, well, once the Oslo Accords went into play, the overall construction seemed to decline quite a bit. Well, true compared to 91, 92, but historically, I don't know if that is that true, right? So it's good to have this full graph. So the next paragraph he says is, the wiki implies the massive, unusual spike in 91 to 92 is the historic normal. So you're definitely wondering, what happened in 91, 92? This can be traced to Israel's largest, by far, wave of immigrants since its inception. And then he links the Jewish Virtual Library from 91 to 92 is when you get, I guess, these years, huge immigration. This happened because the Soviet Union, in its final years, lifted its ban on Jewish migration to Israel. Comparing 91 to 92 to 96 to 97 is insanely dishonest, and Bibi was PM from 96 to 99 as well. Also, the claim in the paragraph that Paris was pressured by Albright is just not true. The citation is completely irrelevant. I can't speak to that, but there were no new settlements post-Oslo, right? Solely relying on the number of new settlements is a fundamentally flawed way of assessing whether settlement expansion is taking place. And then he lists 5 points. 1, Israel gets to arbitrarily define the difference between settlements and new neighborhoods. Here are some of the worst examples that I could find. And then he lists 5... Following the government decision in April of 2012 to retroactively legalize 3 outposts, Rehelem, Sansana, and Brushin, and to declare them as new settlements, the commander of the Central Command issued a few days ago a military order officially establishing the boundaries of Rehelem. So here, this is, I guess, like, basically they're expanding this thing here. And then he says, so here are some of the worst examples that I could find. Blah, 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 must trace back to illegal outposts built in the Oslo/Camp David era being retroactively legalized as new neighborhoods of existing settlements, despite sometimes being kilometers away. So that's a really good example of tricky words being dishonest that are, right? And this guy's email is so good. It's really good because it plugs into and it directly counters something that I have said. So what I've said was the expansion of settlements was different after the Oslo Accords because all they did was like build new houses out to expand like neighborhoods for existing settlements, which is true. But this guy's counter to that, which is a really good counter, is you're right, but what you don't realize is they didn't just expand new neighborhoods. Sometimes those new neighborhoods are actually miles away from the original settlement, which is a tricky and dishonest way of saying you're only expanding a settlement when in reality you're kind of sort of starting a new one or building another one miles away, right? Which is a really, really good point, an interesting point. Number 2, if you want to measure settlement expansion by number of settlements, then you must believe that settlement expansion is not currently taking place and basically has not for the last 30 years. Only one new official settlement in the last 20 years. Actually, you also have to believe settlement expansion started to decline before Oslo, which doesn't make sense. Number 3, the number of outposts tacitly endorsed by the government must also be considered. Israel secretly funded illegal, according to Israel, outposts and provided utilities and constructed roads for them, tore down some of the smaller outposts, then started a process of legalizing most of them in the 2010s, and then he provides more. There's tons of links that he gives in here, too. Outpost construction started under Bibi in the 90s, so no, he did not just continue Rabin's settlement freeze, like you've claimed before. In fact, he immediately lifted it, and then he gives another link here. A good variety of sources, too. Israel will allow settlers to build. This is from 96, so we're 3 years into Oslo here, right? The Likud government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu took one of its first specific steps today towards reversing the dovish policies of its predecessors, lifting a 4-year-old ban on the expansion of settlements in the West Bank and Gaza. The cabinet decision left Jewish settlers gloating that the pendulum of Israeli politics has swung their way, while both Israeli and Palestinian opponents of the move warned that settlement expansion would unravel the peace agreements. In abolishing the ban on new construction, Mr. Netanyahu's government also did away with the ministerial committee that had reviewed building requests, leaving approval of new construction up to the defense minister alone. Yeah, so assuming he's not misquoting any of this. Note 2, Rabin settlement freeze obviously excluded East Jerusalem, but it also excluded the Jordan Valley and Golan Heights, surprisingly, so it's less extensive or expensive than it appears. I think you meant to say extensive. Number 4, new official settlements are a bad look internationally, so there is strong incentive